Hello everyone! Ang aaralin natin for today is solving rational equations. So, for us to be able to solve rational equations, we're going to follow certain steps. So, ito yung mga steps natin. The first one is to find the LCD given the rational equation. And we also have to simplify the equation by multiplying both sides with the LCD. Nasagot natin kanina sa number 1. So, pag ginawa natin itong step 2, mawawala na lahat yung fractions na sa problem. And then, we now have to apply or solve for the value of the variable. At syempre, i-check din natin kung yung nasolve natin is actually a solution to the rational equation. So, para mas maintindihan, i-apply natin sa mga actual problems sa given natin. For our first example, we have 1 over x equals 1 over 5x minus x minus 1 over 5x. So, sa first step, we have to solve for our LCD. Kung makipapansin, ang denominators natin ay x, 5x, at 5x. So, when we're taking the LCD, pare-parehong x naman yung variable. So, you only take that variable once. Si 5 ay dalawang beses nag-appear. So, we'll just use it once. So, any repetition, we just copy it once, no? Si x at si 5x in this particular example. So, later on, we'll have furthermore examples. So, now that we have our 5x, the next thing that we have to do is to multiply our rational equation with our LCD para mas madali nyong ma-solve at mawala na yung mga fractions. So, let's just copy first. 1 over x. So, this is going to be our approach ha. Mag-iiwan ako ng space dyan para mas ma-visualize nyo yung solution. Lalaktaw ulit tayo. And then, x minus 1 over 5x. So, ang idea ni step 2 is for you to multiply both sides with the LCD. So, kung isosolve natin yan, ganito magiging itsura. Dito tayo sa original problem na nakasulat. So, multiply natin si left ng LCD, which is 5x. Multiply natin si right ng equation with the LCD. Diba? So, ang gagawin natin is part by part para mas makita nyong mabuti. So, let me erase this. Yan. Para makita nyo yung pag-multiply for each term doon sa ating rational equation. So, ang gagawin natin here, multiply natin siya ng si 1 over x, to, ay multiply natin yung LCD na 5x. And then, equal, so copy the equal sign. And then, this first one, 1 over 5x, i-multiply din natin siya ng LCD, which is 5x. Then, copy the operation, which is subtraction. And then, this rational expression, multiply din natin with 5x. So, kagaya nung kanina, di ba, parang pinarenthesis, nakaparenthesis siya, tapos i-distribute din natin siya on all the terms dito. No, ito, pinakita ko na part by part, para mas ma-visualize nyo yung pwedeng ma-cancel. So, dito, ang pareho yung x and x. Cancel. This one, buong 5x pareho sa baba. So, remember, when we cancel, yung parehong-parehong expression sa taas or factor sa taas at yung sa baba, that means the answer is going to be 1. Kaya kinakancel natin, hindi yun walang natitira, but the answer is 1. And pag minultiply mo siya doon sa remaining factor, dito, the answer is 1. When you multiply sa remaining factor, it will not affect the value of the given. Okay? Kaya yung parang pinaka-shortcut is cancel. So, the idea is we're actually dividing. So, this one, pareho din. 5x divided by 5x, the answer is 1. And 1 times x minus 1 is still x minus 1, right? So, now that we were able to cancel, sabi nga kay step 2, kapag na-multiply mo na ng LCD, yung rational equation, dapat wala ng fraction para mas madali nang tignan yung problem. So, let's write. Ang matitira na lang dito ay 1 dahil na-cancel na yung, ay teka, 1 times, meron tayong 5 na natira, diba? So, 1 times 5, di naman na-cancel si 5 eh. Dito, 1, then minus, we have x minus 1. So, since the operation here is subtraction, remember to write your parentheses. Okay? So, we have minus and then the quantity of x minus 1. So, what is 1 times 5? Tuturo natin yung mga natira ha. So, you have 1 times 5. Cancel na yung x. Dito, cancel na pareho yung 5x. So, 1 ang natira. Ito yon. Then, minus. And then, cancel din dito yung 5x. Ang natirang numerator ay x minus 1. But since this is subtraction, remember to write your parentheses. Kasi magpapalit tayo ng sign. So, now let's simplify. Diba? Wala nang denominator. Na-simplify na natin siya. Let's simplify further. So, 1 times 5 is simply 5 equals 1. Then, remember, when you have subtraction, the signs will change. We have negative times x is negative x. And negative times negative 1. Negative and negative will give you positive 1. So, let's try it here. Let's just rewrite 5 equals, and then pwede nating i-simplify yung 1 tsaka positive 1, we're going to have 2, diba? So, if we write, we're going to have 2, then let's just copy negative x. So, para mas madali yung ma-solve or ma-visualize, nasanay tayo na yung x ay nasa left, so lipat natin si x. By addition property of equality, x will be now positive x. And then we'll have 2. E1 si 2 yung constant. And then the 5, by addition property of equality, will now be negative 5 to the right. Ba? So, parang dito yung nilagay yan, tapos nilipat natin si 5. So, what is 2 minus 5? 2 minus 5 is negative 3. So, we're able to solve for the value of x. Now, let's check if the answer or our value of x is actually correct. Paano malalaman? Substitute na lang natin. So, in this problem, dito tayo. 1 over x. Ang x natin ay negative 3. So, ito 1 over x. Ipapalit na natin ang negative 3. So, we'll have negative 3 equals 1 over 5 from the problem. X yan. So, papalitan natin ang sagot na negative 3 ulit. So, 5 times negative 3. Lahat ng x sa problem, papalitan lang natin ng negative 3. And minus, you have x, lagyan yung parenthesis, is negative 3 minus 1 over 5 times negative 3. So, ito yung given na problem. Sinubstitute lang natin or inalis natin yung x at pinalitan natin ng negative 3 lahat ng pwesto ni x. And now, we simplify. So, let's solve. Iwan lang muna natin igitna na natin yung negative dun sa sign. Then, when we simplify, yung 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. And then, this one, yung negative 3 minus 1, that will become negative 4. And this is 5 times negative 3 ay negative 15. Negative 1 over 3 is equal to, gitna natin yung negative sign. Okay lang yan. Then, kung mapapansin nyo, sa sign natin, this is subtraction, pero meron tayo ditong dalawang negative, diba? Negative and negative will become positive. Yung positive, pag multiply sa negative, is still negative. So, magiging negative 4 over 15. Now, simplify muna natin tong right side. Ang goal natin dyan is maging pareho yung sagot. nung left side sa right side ng ating equation. So, if we're going to simplify, negative 1 over 15, di ba, sa similar fractions, pareho naman silang denominator na 15. So, ibig sabihin, kokopyahin natin yung 15. So, copy the denominator 15. And then, we have negative 1 minus 4. Negative 1 minus 4, the answer is negative 5. O, diba, kung titingnan yung problem, we can simplify this as negative 5, lowest term. 15 is 5 times 3. So, cancel yan. Sabi ko nga, pag na-cancel, diba, the answer is 1. Kung wala nang matitira dun sa numerator, meron yan. That is negative 1. Because we divide negative 5 and 5, so we have negative 1. We have the remaining factor in the denominator as 3. So, yung negative 1/3, kung matitignan nyo, negative 1/3 is the same as this side, meaning to say, equal yung kaliwa at saka yung kanan. Ibig sabihin, yung sagot natin na x equal to negative 3 ay nasa-satisfy yung condition ng given rational equation. Therefore, our x equals negative 3 is the solution to the given rational equation. For our next example, let's have the LCD. So, ang denominator natin ay 2x, 4x squared, at 4x. So, paano makukuha yung LCD niyan? Una, consider natin yung mga numerical coefficients, yung mga numbers. So, ang numbers na nandyan ay 2 at 4. Simply list down the multiples. So, 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. And then, multiples ni 4. Bakit? Kasi yun lang yung numbers natin. 2, tsaka 4. So, multiples of 4 is 4, 8, 12, 16. And so on. So, saan ba sila unang naging pareho? Saan unang naging pareho yung multiples of 2 and multiples of 4? Diba? Ang unang parehong number nila ay 4. Kaya, our numerical coefficient is 4. Ngayon, ang tanong, paano naman sa variable? Kung mapapansin nyo, meron tayong x squared, tsaka x. Pare-pareho silang variable na x, nagkakaiba lang sa exponent. If that is the case, ang kukunin natin is yung variable na may highest exponent, which is squared. Therefore, our LCD is 4x squared. So, now that we have our LCD, the next step is to multiply each term by the LCD. So, kagaya nung kanina, mag-iwan tayo ng space. So, 1, kukopay na yung problem, iwan tayo ng space. And then, let's multiply by our LCD. Our LCD is 4x squared. 4x squared. And then 4x squared. Multiply ha. So, once we multiply, titingnan natin ano ba yung pwedeng ma-cancel. So, kagaya nito, yung 4 at yung 2. Diba? When we're canceling, we're actually dividing. So, ibig sabihin yan, 4 divided by 2. What is 4 divided by 2? The answer is 2. Saan mapupunta yung 2 na yon? Dito, sa mas malaking number. Kung nasan yung mas malaking number, dun siya ilalagay yung sagot. So, 4 divided by 2, the answer is 2. And then, meron kang isang x sa baba, but you have x squared sa taas, diba? So, ibig sabihin, yung x squared natin, mababawasan lang ng isa sa taas. Okay, dito naman sa sumunod. So, ito ay x squared, diba? So, magiging 1 na lang yung matitira dyan. Kasi isang x sa baba, dalawang x sa taas. So, cancel lang tayo ng isa. Then, dito sa susunod, parehong-pareho sila. So, 4x squared divided by 4x squared, the answer is 1. Yung sagot na 1 na yon, kahit naman i-multiply natin dito, the answer would still be 1. Now, this one, sa huli, we have 4 and 4, so the answer is 1. Then, kagaya nung kanina, isang x dito, dalawang x dyan, so may matitira pa tayong isang x sa taas. So, if we are going to rewrite yung mga remaining factors natin, dito sa simula, ang natira ay 1 times 2, tsaka isang x, plus 1, wala nang i-multiply, equals 1 times x. So, let's rewrite. We will have 1 times 2x. Ang exponent na lang ay 1, so we don't have to write it anymore. Plus, ito, 1. Diba? So, plus 1. Equals, ang natira dito ay 1 at saka x. So, let's just write it first as 1 times x. So, when we multiply this 1 times 2x, we're actually going to have just 2x, diba? Plus 1, and then 1 times x is simply x. So, by addition property of equality, let's combine similar terms. Yan. So, nasanay tayo na yung x natin is on the left, the variable, and the constants on the right. So, we're going to have 2x minus x. Positive 1 siya kanina, so this will now become negative 1. So, 2x. Yung x, kapag walang katabing number, understood, merong 1. So, 2 minus 1 is 1. Kopyahin yung variable, so 1x. Or, we don't have to write 1 anymore, so sulat lang is x. Therefore, we have x equals negative 1. So, if that is our solution, then let's check kung tugma yung magiging equation natin. So, to check, we simply substitute the value of x dito sa ating given equation. So, lahat ng x mawawala, papalitan lang ng negative 1. So, that means we have 1 over 2. Yung x natin ay magiging negative 1 plus 1 over 4. Instead na x squared, magiging negative 1 squared equals 1 over 4. Ang x uli ay magiging negative 1. So, if we simplify, so kapag sinimplify natin yung denominator, 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. And then, plus negative 1 squared. Ang negative 1, pag in-square ay positive 1. Yung sagot, i-multiply sa 4. So, positive 1 times 4 is still 4. And then, when we simplify this part, 1 times negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. So, when we have yung negative sa denominator, we can simplify it as, sulat natin yung negative sa gitna. Negative 1/2. Yung sign, and then plus 1/4. The question is, will it equal to the right side, which is negative 1/4? So, ang isolve na lang muna natin for this space is yung left side. Kailangan lang mag-arrive tayo sa sagot na negative 1/4. Solve natin itong kaliwa, kailangan ang makukuha natin ay yung sagot sa kanan. So, negative 1/2 plus 1/4. Paano ba mag-add ng dissimilar fraction? So, yung LCD pa rin yan. Ang LCD ng 2 at 4, kagaya nung kanina, ay 4, diba? So, paano ngayon natin isosolve ito? So, we can also apply the same technique na meron tayo kanina. We write negative 1/2. Times natin sa LCD, which is 4, plus 1/4, which multiplied by the LCD, which is also 4. So, yung 4 yung LCD natin kanina. Pinakita natin na hiwa-hiwalay para mas ma-visualize yung iba. Kasi iba nalilito kapag naka-parenthesis. So, kanya-kanyang diskarte pa rin yan. Ang importante, alam yung process, alam yung kaganapan. So, in this case, dito, we have 4 divided by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Ito pareho, 4 and 4. So, cancel. So, ano na lang ang natira? We have negative 1 times 2 and then plus 1. So, negative 1 times 2 is negative 2 plus 1. So, negative 2 plus 1, ang sagot ay negative 1. Yun yung ilalagay natin dito sa itaas. Okay? So, kung mapapansin nyo, nung sinolve natin tong negative 1 half plus 1/4, ang sagot natin ay negative 1/4 din, which is equal dito sa nasa right side ng ating equation. Therefore, yung sagot natin na x equals negative 1 is the correct solution for this rational equation. Okay? So, for the last example, kunin natin ang ating LCD. Ang denominator natin ay x squared minus 1. We also have x plus 1 at x minus 1. So, observe muna natin yung denominator kung sino pa yung pwedeng ma-factor. In this case, we can still factor out x squared minus 1 because this is a difference of 2 squares. So, that means yung x squared minus 1 ay pwedeng isulat as x plus 1 at x minus 1. And, copy lang natin yung dalawang denominator na sinulat natin kanina. Now, the question is, ano ang LCD? So, to get the LCD, we simply get one of each. So, kung meron tayong dalawang x plus 1 dyan, isang beses lang natin yun gagamitin. Ganon din si x minus 1. Therefore, our LCD is x plus 1 and x minus 1. So, now that we have our LCD, let's multiply it sa ating rational equation. So, we have 4 over x squared minus 1, pero instead na gamitin natin yung x squared minus 1, pwede natin siyang i-rewrite as x plus 1 times x minus 1. Diba? Kasi katumbas niya rin naman yon. And then, minus, we have x minus 1 over x plus 1. Mag-iwan tayo ng space dyan. Equals, we have x plus 7 and x minus 1. So, we'll multiply by our LCD. So, multiply by x plus 1 at x minus 1. Multiply by x plus 1, x minus 1. Yung LCD natin, di ba? So, multiply. Ang goal nito, para pagdating sa dulo ng solution sa step 2, wala na tayong fraction. Mas madali na siyang isolve. So, cancel muna. May maka-cancel talaga dapat siya. So, x plus 1 pareho, x minus 1 pareho. X plus 1 pareho, x minus 1. So, kung isusulat natin yung remaining factors, ang mga natira na lang ay 4. And then, minus, you have x minus 1. Yung mga hindi na-cancel. Dalawang x minus 1 yan, yung hindi na-cancel. Equals x plus 7, tsaka x plus 1. So, by observing this solution, we have to apply multiplication, di ba? Pag ganyan yung problem, we have to use the FOIL method. You simply multiply one factor with the other. So, let's proceed. 4 minus. Mamaya na natin gamitin yung minus na yan. Solve muna natin itong x minus 1. So, x times x is x squared. X times negative 1 is negative x. Negative 1 times x is also negative x. And negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. So, dito rin sa right side, x times x is x squared. X times 1 is positive x. 7 times x is positive 7x. And 7 times 1 is positive 7. So, simplify muna natin. Meaning, everything within the parentheses, yung pwedeng ma-combine, i-combine. Just like negative x and negative x, we can write it as negative 2x plus 1. The right side, you have x squared. X plus 7x is positive 8x plus 7. So, now we can distribute this negative sign. So, everything inside this quantity, magpapalit siya ng sign. So, we will have 4. Magiging x squared sa loob ay positive, so it will now become negative. Sorry. Okay? So, positive si x squared. When we distribute the negative, it will become negative. Si negative 2x will become positive 2x. At si positive 1 will become negative 1. The right side, we have, copy lang muna, x squared plus 8x plus 7. So, continuing our solution, pagsamasamahin muna natin lahat on one side para makita natin ng buo. Let's move everything to the left. O, diba? Tingnan muna natin yung left dito. 4 tsaka minus 1. Let's simplify. 4 minus 1 will become 3. So, doon lang muna tayo. We'll have negative x squared plus 2x. 4 minus 1 is positive 3. So, we have positive 3. And then, let's move everything to the right. Ay, to the left rather. So, kung positive si x squared, by addition property of equality, lahat, diba, will change the sign. So, we will have negative x squared minus 8x minus 7. So, we brought everything to the left. Wala nang natira sa right. So, that means the right side is now equal to 0. Para makita natin muna when we simplify. So, combining similar terms, negative x squared will become negative 2x squared. Recall ha, yung mga basic concepts sa ating math. And then, yung pareho namang variable na x lang. So, positive 2x minus 8x is negative 6x. And then, positive 3 minus 7, positive 3 minus 7 is negative 4. Then, the right side is equal to 0. So, kung mapapansin natin, meron tayong coefficient kay x squared, which is negative 2. Pero kung titignan din natin, lahat nung numbers sa ating terms ay pwedeng ma-divide by 2. So, we can actually simplify this further. So, magiging, I will divide by negative 2. So, depende yun sa problem kung pwede silang ma-divide lahat. Kapag hindi, you cannot perform this part. So, anong matitira na lang? So, negative 2 and negative 2, ang matitira will be x squared. Negative and negative 6x divided by negative 2. Negative and negative will become positive, diba? So, we'll have positive. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And then, copy x. Negative 4 divided by negative 2, parehong sign. So, it will become positive. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. So, if we recall factoring, this is actually x plus 2 and x plus 1. So, the factor of x squared plus 3x plus 2 is x plus 2 and x plus 1. So, we solve for x. So, yung unang sagot natin na x plus 2, sa parenthesis, equate natin sa 0. The other one is x plus 1, equate natin sa 0. So, when we solve, the first value of x is actually negative 2. The other one, the value of x is negative 1. So, the question is, are they both solution? Dalawa yung value natin kay x. Ayan, no? Kasi quadratic eh. So, we have two values of x. The question is, pareho ba silang solution? Kung nakuha nating value ng x, pareho ba magsasatisfy dito sa ating rational equation? Diba? Remember, the focus of our rational equation is hindi pwedeng maging 0 yung denominator. Even if we do not perform checking, just by inspection. Kapag pinalit natin yung negative 2 anywhere in the denominator, magkakaroon pa ng 0 sa denominator. Negative 2 squared is 4 minus 1. This is 3. Negative 2 plus 1, this is negative 1. Negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. Pag sinubstitute sa denominator, so hindi magiging 0 yung denominator kasi yun ay hindi allowed sa rational equations. Pero pag tinignan natin yung isang sagot na x is equal to negative 1, dito pa lang. Pag pinalitan natin to ng negative 1, tapos plus 1, magiging 0 tong part na to ng problem, which will make the entire equation undefined. So, ibig sabihin, from these two answers, yung negative 2 ang solution, but the other one is not. Because it will make your equation undefined. Magkakaroon ka kasi ng 0 sa denominator. So, kapag hindi siya solution, we call it the extraneous root. Okay, so if it's not a solution, then we consider the answer an extraneous solution or an extraneous root. I hope you learned something new today. Thank you very much. Ingat!